Hi guys, so today I'm going to go through with you the new adult face mask tutorial and pattern. We've made some adjustments based on feedback and also to align with the Mask for All campaign. They have recommended patterns for handmade masks, so the original pattern is a bit out of date, so I'm going to go through all those changes with you now. This is basically the finished product. And I wanted to just let you know a bit about it. So when you guys post them to us, we just need you to have the elastics tied in bows, please, not knots, just to make it easy for the customers to untie again. Because people have different preferences around ear loops or head straps, we've just decided it's easier to let people fit it themselves. Once they've decided how they want it, they can just turn knot and then trim the elastic, and then these knots can actually be pulled through into the seams so as that it all looks very neat and tidy. The other important features to note here is that it's still got a piece of wire over the bridge of the nose and then a gap that people can use to put a disposable filter in. So that's what we're going to be sewing today. The other thing just to keep in mind is with the finished sizing. So for the adults, this is actually 21 centimeters by, look, about 6 centimeters. We should be aiming for 6. It's usually probably about 7 that it comes out as, but it's really important to try not to go too much wider than that, because when people are actually wearing them, it's important that they stay close to the face, and when these seams become too large, it actually can create gaps, which isn't ideal. So that's just the reasons why we need to just make sure that that finished size stays close to that 7 centimeter-ish range. Okay, so I'll take you through all the rest of it now. So here we've got the cut fabric and materials for the adult mask. I'll go through the adult measurements here. The kids' measurements are updated on the pattern. So for the adults, you've got a piece of fabric 41 centimeters in length by 20 centimeters in width. And then the side bits here are 11 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Then you have 2 pieces of elastic, and these are cut to 40 centimeters each. You'll notice on the kids pattern that we actually cut the elastic to the same size for the kids. So 40 centimeters for both adults and kids, and then people can adjust and trim that elastic however they want. And then we have a piece of garden wire, which for adults, we cut to about 17 centimeters, because then we fold the ends in about 1 centimeter over on each edge, leaving us with about 15 centimeters that will be sewn in to that top seam. Okay, so the first step is to sew the seams at each end of the fabric tube that will make the main body of the mask. Those seams need to be stitched at about 1/2 centimeter. It's important to keep it quite narrow and close to the top, because that's going to determine how high up the wire sits. Okay, so now you can see you've got 2 seams, one at either end of the fabric. In the next step, we're going to thread the wire through. Okay, so now we're going to thread the garden wire through one of the seams. So here you can see that we've looped and just twisted the 2 ends so as that the wire doesn't poke out through the fabric. Great. So now we just need to stitch the ends of the wire in place just by putting a little back stitch in each. Just be mindful not to sew over the wire because it can break it. Okay, so you've got your piece of fabric with the wire in one end and a plain seam in the other. Now we're going to sew the main body together. So using the wire end on top. Here you can see you're going to sew just on the ends of the tube right underneath that wire seam, about 4 centimeters on each side, leaving a gap in the middle of about 8 centimeters for your filter pocket. You can just pull it along. So that's the main body of your mask. So once all the threads are trimmed up, you can see there's a filter pocket there with the wire in there. So when you turn it in the right way, give it a finger press, you can see that there's no visible seams there. But there is the filter pocket visible. Okay, so now now once you've sewn your tube, you need to press that wire in and make sure that it's wriggled right up to the top and that it's pressed flat. Now, where the wire is here is going to be the front of your mask. Now, when you're doing the pleats, it's actually really important that you put this face down on your board so as that when people are wearing the mask, the pleats open downwards. So just make sure when you're doing your pleats that the part of the pocket that's facing up is the bit without the wire. Okay, so front side down. So then you need to fold up your pleats. 3 pleats for an adult and 2 pleats for a child. And this is where you just need to be mindful of that width. So making sure that it's roughly 6 to 7 centimeters along the sides there, so as that it stays nice and close to people's faces when the elastic is in there. Great, so when that's all pressed, you're ready to sew. Now just remember that the pleats don't have to be perfect. It's probably going to take a bit of practice to get them consistently to that right width, but you'll get there. They don't have to be perfect or perfectly even. Okay, so now we're going to sew the end bits on. So this is the front of the mask at the moment, where we just wrap the fabric around. Again, about 1/2 centimeter in with the seam. So there we have both of the ends on. both of the ends on the mask. Okay, so this last stage is to sew the elastic into the side. So we first fold over at the ends and then lay the elastic in the seam and then fold it over one more time to give it a neat finish. Now, it's important here to stitch from this side and put your needle in, point at the other end, Carrie Lynn, to where the needle lines up to just where that other seam is underneath the fold. If you line your needle up along that seam, then you're gonna get a nice neat finish. So here you can see that stitching is pretty neat along the other side, and then at the back you've got a nice tidy seam, and you can also see that the elastic moves freely in the seam so as that people can adjust it as they need to adjust it, and then when they've tied a knot in it, they can twist it and hide the knot in the seam so that it looks really nice and neat. So we'll do the other end now. So again, just lining the needle up there with that seam. So there you go, that's it, all finished and trimmed. So then we just tie the elastic in a bow, and that's it, ready to be posted, the completed mask. Here we go.